We begin today's shiur 21 lines from the top of Daf Pei Zayin. A little less than halfway down the page, you'll notice a volcano shape, a trapezoid, in the middle of the line, Omar Rabba. That is our beginning point. In our previous shiur, we discussed the idea of a woman being exempted from an oath that otherwise the husband would have been able to impose on her. So continuing in that same vein, we have a topic heading on the side of our Gemara and a mivneh, a structural note combined into one. We feature the trapezoid, or the volcano shape. De'ois shoynois be'inyan l'shoynois shoynim shoptur shvua uma hein hatoitzaos. We have different opinions regarding different expressions that have to do with a shvua exemption. And what are the results? The Gemara. Omar Rabba, Omar Abchia. Delo neder udelo shvua. If that is the language of the exemption, hu eino yochol ashbia, the husband himself has surrendered or relinquished his rights to impose the oath on his wife, the oath that we discussed extensively in our previous shiur. Avol yorshim mashbian osa, but the heirs could impose the shvua on her. Noki neder, noki shvua, if that is the expression. Noki literally means has to be cleansed from. Bain hu ubain yorshim ein mashbian osa. Whether it be the husband himself or his heirs cannot impose an oath on her. Hochi ka'omar law. What he intends by this statement is mankis mishvuasa. You are cleansed, you are freed from taking an oath. Rav Yosef Omar Rebechia. Rav Yosef addresses these two expressions. You'll see in the first expression we have the number 1 here and we have the number 1 a few lines above. The encircled number 1, you'll see there's no point of difference. But when we get to number 2, there's a difference. So if he writes to her, he says to her, Delo neder udelo shvua, hu eino yochol ashbia v'l yorshim mashbian osa. The husband cannot impose the shvua, but the heirs can, just like Rabbah above. However, noki neder noki shvua, bein hu ubein yorshim mashbian osa. Notice the dash, the squiggle underlining. Above we had squiggle line ein mashbian osa, and here we squiggle line mashbian osa. Hochi ka'omar law. The expression, according to Rav Yosef, of noki neder noki shvua means naki nafshech bishvuasa. Clear yourself. If there's any suspicion against you that the husband may have, so you clear yourself with a shvua. So, according to Rav Yosef, naki neder is an expression of shvua obligation. Whereas, according to Rabbah, Naki Neder is an exemption. Sholach Rabbi Zakai Lemor Ukva. Bein Delo Shvua, Bein de Naki Shvua. Bein Delo Neder, Ubein de Naki Neder. Any of these expressions then coupled with Mi Nechosai. In other words, he would say, Lo Shvua Mi Nechosai. Or Naki Neder Mi Nechosai. Hu eino yochol lahashbia, avol yorshim mashbian osa. That expression implies, or it conveys, that the husband cannot impose a shvua, but the heirs could, because once the heirs take over the property, it's not the nochasai means my properties, and it's the properties of the speaker, the husband. But when they inherit, it's no longer, that expression has no application. It's not the husband's properties anymore. However, if he says minechasaya elaine, namely, he says one of the expressions before, like for example, neki shvua minechasaya elaine, bein hu ubein yorshov ein mashbian osa. Because the expression of exemption isn't let's say person-focused, but rather property-focused. These properties will be exempt from needing to swear over them. Omar Rav Nachman, Omar Shmuel. Now here we're continuing, of course, you can see the volcano shape. However, we're introducing a new shape, a crown shape, and on the side of the Gemara under the Mivneh, the crown tells us these are Shnei Lishonos. There are two versions. According to Aleph, the first version, crown Aleph, Divrei Abba Shol Heim Chelik Mishmaitza Shel Shmuel. Abba Shol will appear in the Gemara as a part of the Amoraic presented teaching. Now, Abba Shol himself was not an Amora. He was an earlier generation scholar from the Tanaic period. However, he is presented here as having with a statement, but it's not in the context of Tanaic literature. These are mainros, these are Amoraic reports of what Tanoim may have held. But there's a difference between an Amoraic report of what a Tana said as opposed to formal Tanaic literature. So according to the first version, Abba Shol is part of the Amoraic teaching of Shmuel. That's called a Shmaitza. According to the Bayes version, we've written on the side, Divrei Abba Shol heim betoch brisa u'Shmuel bo lifsoik halacha. There it's a different presentation of the same information, but there it's Abba Shol appears as part of a formal Tanaic source, and Shmuel appears as coming to issue a ruling. So now we continue in the Gemara. Omar Rav Nachman Omar Shmuel Mishum Abba Shol ben Imo Miriam. Bein de lo shvua, bein de naki shvua, bein de lo neder, bein de noki neder, bein minechosai, bein minechosai al ilain. Any of these languages, any of these expressions, bein hu, ubein yorshav, whether it's the original husband, the original owner, or his heirs, ein mashbian osa. They cannot impose a shvua. So according to this, so far, by letter of the law, it would appear that the Yorshim will be removed from shvua imposition rights, regardless of the language that he used. Even if it's not nechosai elaine, even if it's in the nechosai form, they would be exempted, and that's on a we'll call letter of the law basis. However, he goes on, Avol ma'aseh sheyamru chachomim habal lipora minichse yisoimim lo yifra elo b'shvua. There's another law that we'll say overrules the husband's exemption, and that is that when someone comes to collect from heirs. That's from the Nichse Yisaimim. When someone collects from heirs, they cannot collect from heirs debts that were owed to them by their benefactor unless they take an oath. So that you will nevertheless see an oath taken when someone is trying to collect from the heirs. Even though, as we suggested, even though the language of exemption would seem to cover that scenario, nevertheless, we don't follow that, but rather anyone who comes to collect from heirs has to do so by taking a shvua ahead of time, ensuring the heirs that in fact the debt is still outstanding. V'ika di amri law masnisa. There are those that present Abba Shol ben Imo Miriam in the context of a Tanaic source. Abba Shol ben Imo Miriam Omar Bein de lo shvua. Again, we're dealing with the text or the language of the exemption. Whatever the language was, Bein de lo shvua, Bein de noki shvua, Bein de lo neder, Bein noki neder, Bein minechosai, Bein minechosai elaine, Bein hu, Ubein yorshav, Ein mashbian osa. Avol ma'aseh sharei amru chachomim habal lipora minichse yisoimim lo yifra elo b'shvua. Omar Rav Nachman Omar Shmuel halacha keben ima shal Miriam. The halacha follows this Tanaic source that featured Abba Shaul, the son of Imo Miriam. The Mishnah. Hapogemes ksubasa lo tifra elo b'shvua. We described this on our previous shiur. Pogemes ksubasa, just to go over the case. Actually, we don't need to go over the case because the Mishnah itself will explain each one of these. So, just structurally, you notice that we have numbered off 5 points. As we go on in the Mishnah, you will see the double underline marking also with numbers. You'll see numbered up to 5. That's basically, it's a list of shavuos that are taken, and as a result of the shvua, they're then able to collect. And the house shape that you see will highlight the word ketzad, where each one of these 5 points are explained, they're elaborated on. So we don't have to explain anything yet till we get to the double underlining section of the Mishnah. So the Mishnah reads, Hapogemes ksubasa lo sifra elo b'shvua. Eid echad me'ida shehi prua lo tifra elo b'shvua. Minichse yosaimim u'minichosim mishuabadim v'nifras shelo b'fonov lo sifra elo b'shvua. There's a Rashi on the minichosim mishuabadim. These are properties that had been sold to purchasers, upon which the collector, the one who's trying to collect in our Mishnah, has a lien. Mishum di'i have govi min halove gufei v'have toyin loive. If a person was collecting his debt not from people who purchased from the borrower, but directly from the borrower himself, and the borrower would have said, "Oh, you're trying to collect from me," and the loive would have said, "Ishtabali delo paratich." I want you to swear that I didn't pay you back. Amrina b'shvuos. We say in the tractate Shvuos, that we will impose a shvua on the lender. You want to collect, so swear that the borrower did not pay you. V'i lo toyin, if the borrower doesn't advance that request or that demand, lo taninon lei, we will not do that for him. Hoil v'nokid shtara. Why not? Because the malveh is coming with a document. That's a very, very strong instrument of collection. He has a shtar, he has a document indicating the money is owed to him. So that's as far as the loveh himself, the borrower himself, is concerned. Avol. B'shvil l'kuchos, when you have the lender going to people who purchased land or from the borrower, anan ta'aninon, we intervene on behalf of those purchasers. Dilmo ihave govis min haloive, if the borrower had been the one collected from, havitoyin loch, he would have made the taina to you, the lender, ishtabali delo paratich. I want you to swear that I didn't pay you. Uboy sishtabu, and you, the lender, would have to swear in order to collect. Hashto, now that we're dealing with purchasers from the loive, anan taninon, we taina on his behalf. Tepsach picho li'ileim. Well, this is an example of the obligation of speaking up on behalf of the ilaim, of the mute, meaning the purchasers. The case of collection from Yisoimim and the collection of what's called Nifrash Lo B'Fonov, all are based on this idea that we taina on their behalf. We advance the request for a shavua on behalf of these people that otherwise wouldn't know to demand that. So now the Mishnah continues. Hapoigemes ksubasa ketzad. What is that case? Hoisik ksubasa elevzuz. The Omar law Iskabalt ksubosech. A woman has a ksuba worth 1,000 zuz. Zuz is a type of denomination of money. If you prefer, $1,000, and the husband says, "You got paid already." Vehi omeres lo iskabalti elamona. What do you mean I got paid? I didn't get paid other than 100 of the 1,000. Lo tifra ela b'shvua. In order for her to collect the balance, she would have to swear that she is still owed the 900, and as a result of the swearing, she will then collect the balance of the 900. Eid echad me'ida shehi prua. A singular witness. In Jewish law, in order for an actual, let's say, for the court to intervene and transfer funds, you'd have to have two witnesses. One witness does not have the power to activate the court in issuing a transfer of property or money. However, you have a singular witness, mi'ida shehi prua. The Mishnah spoke about eid echad mi'ida shehi prua. Ketzad, what's the case? Hoisik subos elev zuz. Woman had a ksuba of 1,000 zuz. V'omar law. And the husband said his kabal ksubasech. You received your ksuba payment. V'omeres lo iskabalti. And she says, I didn't receive it. You still owe me 1,000 zuz. V'eid echad me'ida shehi prua. And a singular witness says, lady, you've been paid up already. Lo tifra ela b'shvua. If you're going to consider any payment to be made, it must be made with a shvua. The shvua being, I did not receive anything. So that the singular witness is in effect creating a situation where we will impose an oath on the woman. Number 3, minachosim mishubadim ketzad. Mochar kol nechosav lachirim. A man, a husband, had sold off all his properties to others. Vehi nefras min alakuchos. And the woman, let us say she had been divorced. She is coming to collect her ksuba. Who is she going to go to? The husband has nothing, so she's going to go to those people who purchased land from him. Lo sifra ela b'shvua. Her payment will be only if she is willing to swear that she had not received anything. Minachsei yisoimim ketzad. Meis v'nich nechosav li. Some man died, then left property to his heirs. V'nifras min yisoimim. And she's trying to collect. And who's she turning to? She's turning to his heirs. Lo tifra ela b'shvua. Payment will be made only if she vows. V'shelo b'fonav ketzad. Holach lo means hayam. The husband went abroad. He's shelo b'fonav means literally not in front of him. He's not here for her to confront. He's abroad. V'nifras shelo b'fonav, and she is trying to get payment and not in front of the husband because he's abroad. Eino nifras ela b'shvua. She'll be able to collect suba, but only if she takes an oath. We continue at the top of Omid Beis. Rabbi Shimon Omer calls manshi toivas ksubasa hayorshim mashbian osa. Vim eino toivas ksubasa ein hayorshim mashbian osa. This is a somewhat obscure statement. It's easy to translate it, but Rashi points out the Gemara will have to explain what is Reb Shimon referring to. When the translation is that as long as she is seeking her ksuba, the yorshim can impose a vow on her. If she's not seeking her ksuba, the yorshim cannot impose a vow on her. As we continue in the Gemara, you notice some geometric forms. You see triangles. On the side of the Gemara, we have a nosei mivneh heading. The triangle introduces the havamina of Rami Bar Chama. Havamina meaning the initial thinking, and then utshuvasoi shel Rava, and then Rava's response, his rejection of Rami Bar Chama's thinking. Levarer, the Gemara is here to clarify im shvua zu shel pogemes ksubasa v'chein behemshech beid echad shemei chiprua. The situations of pogemes ksubasa that we saw in the Mishnah, and the example of the eid echad, the singular witness that testifies that it had been paid up already, those shvuos have a doraisa o derabanan. Do those shvuos that the Mishnah says that she must swear, do they have a status of a Torah level shvuah or a rabbinic level shvuah? Rashi points out the difference being, when you deal with a doraisa level shvuah, the one upon whom the shvuah obligation rests must take the oath, and it cannot be transferred to the other party. If, for example, what would be an example of transferring an oath? Let us say that A needs to swear to B. That A, the oath would be, let's just say for argument's sake, A says to B, you haven't paid me yet. But for some reason, A, we saw in a shiur not too long ago where the party was suspect. So in a case like that, we would be able to transfer the oath from A, who would be swearing, you haven't paid me, to B, who would swear, I have paid you. That's a case of lafoch, to switch the shvuah from one party to the other. In a shvuah doraisa, so we don't do that. A shvuah d'Rabbanan can be switched from one party to the other. So it's important for us to know, does the shvuah that the Mishnah describe have a shvuah d'oraisa status or not? In the course of the Gemara, we're going to see principles that are associated with shavuos, that for us to say them now would be, I think, a bit premature. We'll appreciate them more as we are exposed to these principles in the course of the Gemara's discussion. Now the Gemara. Sova Rami Bar Chama lemeimar. Rami Bar Chama thought to say shvuah d'oraisa. The case of the woman who says to her husband after his saying, I paid you the ksuba, and she says, you didn't pay me all of the ksuba, but I did receive a portion of it, that's a shvuah d'oraisa. Deka to'in mosayim. The husband is claiming you received the full 200 zuz, which is the standard basic ksuba amount. You received your full mosayim 200. V'kamoida lei b'mea, and she is conceding that I did receive part. Havyo lei hoido b'mixas hataina. This is considered partial confession, partial admission. And it's well known that based on droshes of psukim in the Torah, when one is moda b'mixas, a partial admission, the Torah expects you to swear. So as far as Rami Bar Chama is concerned, you're dealing with an issue of moda b'mixas, and therefore it's a Torah-generated oath. Omar Rava shtei tshuvos b'davar. 2 points against your conclusion. Number 1, Chada. One point is that when you're dealing with Torah type oaths, the result of a Torah oath is that one swears, and as a result of that is then exempt from paying. It's an oath where one denies an obligation to pay, and by swearing, so we accept his claim. So he exempts. It's a shvuah resulting in exemption from paying. That's not the case here. The pogemes ksubosa v'hinish baas v'noteles. The result of her oath is she swears and then demands payment or extracts payment through her swearing. So just to repeat this idea, shvuah d'oraisa is a shvuah that results in exemption from. In this case, it's a shvuah that results in her collecting. And furthermore, there's another principle. Ein nishboyin al kfiras shibud karkois. Oaths are not taken when the oath involves something that is land-based. Here, the husband is denying owing her any money, and she is trying to swear against this denial of the husband. And the husband's denial of owing her money, he's denying owing her money that's documented in a shtar. In this case, the ksuba. Money, debts that are documented in documents, not as opposed to oral obligations, written financial obligations, by their very nature, engender lien on property, on real estate. A lien is created. In the Torah, based on drushes that you find on psukim, oaths are not made concerning debts of land. Say controversy surrounding the owing of karka. Those kind of controversies are not settled by taking oaths because of a klal, a principle, einish boin ala karkois. And just like we don't swear concerning land, we don't swear concerning debts that are, we call them land-based. Even though I'm claiming cash, but it's cash that in the absence of the cash I would collect from land. So that's another reason for saying that this shvua concerning a collection of a ksuba, of a pogemes ksubasa, cannot be a shvua daraisa, because on a Torah level there would be no shvua taken, because the ksuba is based on, it has a shibud karkos, it creates a lien on properties, on real estate, and real estate, we'll say, resists the taking of oaths. Elo Omar Rava Midarabona. The Mishnah talks about a pogemes ksubasa needing to swear to get the balance. Yes, she needs to swear, but that's purely rabbinic. And she is the one that needs to swear. Why? The torah dayak, one who pays out money, generally speaking, they are very aware. Dayak literally means precise. They're precise in their claims. They are very, very aware of what they are paying out. The mifra lo dayak, the one who receives the payment, is less diligent, less careful, and therefore v'ramu rabbanon shvua Allah. She's the one that's trying to receive collection. And as we said, the klal, the principle is that people that receive collections are generally speaking not very careful. Therefore the Rabbanan said, lady, if you're expecting to get paid, you're going to have to swear in order to get paid. So the Rabbanan placed a shvua on her, kihechi de teduk, so as to motivate her to be very careful, very precise. On the side, we have a diamond, and the diamond highlights the expression Ibayalaho. Sidra shel she'elos binyan pogemes ksubasa ve'od. I have a series of questions that some of them are related to the issue of pogemes ksubasa and another question as well. All the questions we can say ahead of time are ksuba related. Ibayalaho. Pogemes ksubasa be'idim mahu. A woman says, the ksuba that I have is for 200, but I received 100 of them, and the 100 that I received was in the presence of witnesses. Does she have to take an oath to get the balance? That's mahu. Does she have to take an oath to get the balance? Two sides of the question. Im isa de para, if it had been paid, if the balance had been paid, be'edim have a porah, it certainly would have been paid with witnesses. Just like we saw that he was careful to have witnesses for the first 100, you can assume then that there would have been witnesses for the second 100. And in the absence of such witnesses, we can then conclude she didn't get the payment, and she deserves to get paid without a shvua. Oidilma. Or it could be that Isramuye Isramile. The first two witnesses were not something of the Baal's initiative, that he took trouble to appoint the witnesses. They just happened to be passing by at the time that the husband was paying the first 100. So that as far as the second 100 is concerned, the absence of the witnesses is not an indication that the husband had not paid the balance. So in order for it to collect the balance according to this side of the question, she would still have to swear. Toshma. So let's try to answer this through the following. However, we're going to present a suggestion. It will be, though, challenged. It will be rejected, questioned later. Toshma. Kol ha'nishbon shebetorah nishboin v'lo mishalmin. Torah oaths are those kind of oaths that result in non-payment. In other words, an oath to verify or to substantiate the lack of need to pay. The following, though, are oaths that are taken, and the result of them, they receive payment. Now, there's a long list of cases here. Hasochir, vanigzal, vanechbal, v'shekenegdo yichoshed al hashvua, v'chenvoni al pinkoso, v'apogem shtaro shelo b'edim. Let's just focus for right now on the last case. The pogem shtaro, we saw already, is a case where there's a bill of collection that entitles you to 100% of whatever's written there, and you then say that I received part of the payment already. And in this list we have these are people that will swear, they're nishbon v'notlin, in order to get the balance. What can we infer from this source? Shelo b'edim in, if the initial partial payment was done without witnesses, then there is a need for a shvuah. B'edim lo, if the initial partial payment was made in the presence of witnesses, then no need for a shvuah to collect the balance. Toshma would substantiate the first side of the suggestions above, the first side of the question, that because there were no witnesses for the balance, but there were witnesses for the first part, she's entitled to collect the balance without needing to take an oath. The Gemara rejects this. Lo mibaya k'omar. That case doesn't need to be taught, namely, lo mibaya bi'edim devadai tzricha shvuah. I don't have to tell you about a case where the first part of the debt was paid off with witnesses, that the balance of that certainly would need a shvuah for her to collect the balance. We'll go over this point in a moment. Let's continue in the Gemara momentarily. Avol, shelo b'edim, if the first part of the debt was paid off without witnesses. So how do we know that any was paid off? Because the owner of the shtar says, I have a shtar here for 200, but I already received 100. She owed me only 100. Amo, I would have thought, Teve Kameshiv Aveda, Vitishko below Shua. This is such a nice person that they're like a person restoring a lost article. That we know there, if a person restores a lost article, he doesn't have to swear concerning that return. And because this woman could have said, I didn't receive anything. After all, she has a shtar. She has a document which indicates she's coming to collect the full amount. By the fact that she's nice enough to say, well, I already received part. V'tishko below shvuah. Let her get the balance without a shvuah. Komash malon. Therefore, the source has to tell me that even in that case, where there's grounds for thinking she'd be exempt from a shvuah, she still has to take a shvuah. But as far as if she received the first part in the presence of witnesses in order to get the balance, she certainly would have to take an oath. So now we take a look at the Rashi, the lower half of the Rashi column, Devadai tzricha shvuah al hashar. There, in the case of where the first part was paid, first part of the debt she's trying to collect was paid to her in the presence of witnesses, she definitely have to take a shvuah on the balance. The komodeh bahai mona, the fact that she's admitting that she received the first 100 mishum edimhu v'lav hashavas aved. It's not out of the goodness of her heart. So, okay, you're dealing with a person that's not acting beyond the call of duty. So, to get the balance, you have to swear. But where you have a person, this is what I would have thought, that's acting beyond the call of duty, that's being so nice, he's like a meshiv aveda, maybe they wouldn't have to swear to get the balance. So that's why this source tells me that even to get the balance, in that case, they have to swear. As far as the details in the source that we read, Rashi explains each one of them, but they're not directly related to our discussion. Hence, for those who want to see the explanation of the first 5 examples of people there that are going to swear and take and collect, you can by all means look into the Rashi. We continue with another question. Hapogemes ksubasa pachos mishave pruta mahu. In order to appreciate this, we look in the Rashi. Pachos mishava pruta. B'mona shehi moida alav shekibla. Regarding the pogemes ksuba. So again, in the case of a ksuba worth 200, she has a shtar to that effect, and she admits she received 100. But regarding the 100 that she received, she starts getting very detailed with regard to the 100, the first part that she received. Kach nosato li biyom ploni, v'kach biyom ploni. So such and such amount you gave me on this date, such and such amount you gave me on this other date. The umitzarfason v'cheshbon, and she then adds them all up, and it comes out to the 100 of the 200. And this can happen afilu pachos mishava pruta, where she says that the payments were made in fractions of a pruta each time. So you see a woman who, as opposed to the woman described above, someone who's not very attentive to the detail, we said before, someone who's mifra, is low dayik, that's not the case over here. So now the Gemara continues elaborating on the question, the two sides of the question. In the Gemara text, Mi amrinon kevon de kodaike kulehai kushta kamra. Since she's so detailed, you have a woman that must be telling the truth, and that the balance she hasn't received, so let her collect without a shvua. Oy dilma, or maybe arume kama erma, or maybe she's a scheming woman, figuring that if I pose myself as someone who's so diligent, I'll get the rest without having to take an oath, and that we of course can't accept, and should have to take an oath. So this remains unresolved. Ibayalaho poicheses ksubasa mahu. What's pocheses ksubasa? So the word pocheses, you can see the word pochot or pchas in the Rashi, the lower part of the Rashi. He says pocheses hoisuk ksubasa elev zuz kosuv b'shtar. Woman had a document indicating that the ksuba was 1,000 zuz. V'omer, and the husband says, his kabalt kulo, you received the full amount. V'omeres, and she says, lo his kabalti klum, I didn't receive anything from you. Avol moidani, but I do concede, shelo hisneis arimi luksubasi elon mona, that you had agreed to pay me a ksuba of only 100. Well, that's a significant reduction from what the shtar that she is holding would indicate. So she's, we'll say, admitting it's a type of moida b'miktsas. And when you hear the term moida b'miktsas, you know that you're dealing with a strong grounds for taking a shvua. Let's see the Gemara. Ibayalaho poicheses ksubasa mahu. Mi amrinon. Do we say hainu pogemes, that this is the case, this is the same as pogemes, and pogemes we saw needs to take a shvua, oidilma, or possibly pogemes is moida b'miktsas, ha lo ko moida b'miktsas, or possibly the case of pogemes that we associate with the shvua is because there is partial admission. In what sense? She's admitting that I got part already. That, namely, just to review, the case of Bogema, she had a ksuba worth 200 zuz, and she says, well, you paid me already 50. That's modeh b'miksa. She's conceding that she received partial payment. In this case, she's not conceding a receipt of partial payment, and therefore, no need for a shvuah. We continue. Toshma, pocheses tifra shelo b'shvuah. Ketzad, a pocheses is able to collect without taking an oath. Kesubos zuz. She had a ksuba with a written 1,000 zuz that she's entitled to collect. The Omar law, and the husband says his kabalt ksubosech, he received all payment. The Omer's lo his kabalti, I didn't receive any payment. V'eno elamona, but the ksuba is not really 1,000; it's only 100. Nifras shelo b'shvuah. She's able to collect without needing to take an oath. So, if you were to stop here, then the original question was, pocheses, does she need to take a shvur or not? You would say no. The Gemara now asks, b'mai gavya, this woman is coming to collect through what? Through what instrument? B'hai shtora, with this document that says 1,000 zuz in it. Hai shtora chasma ba'alma. This document is like a piece of shard. It's worthless as a document because she is saying that all that you really owed me is 100. So Rashi says b'hai shtor hochas b'almahu she omeres mezuyavhu. She's saying it's a forgery. She's saying it's a fake because her real ksuba was only 100, but of that she got nothing. So how can the source teach that she receives collection even without taking the shvuah when we don't even understand through what she is she attempting to make the collection? If you're going to say it's this document is worthless. Omarova brei de rabo, but Imeris, the case is as follows. She says amona hoisa li beini leveino. We look at Rashi. 4 lines from the bottom. Baimeres amona hoisa beini leveino shishtar nechtav v'nechtam kahogen ubifnei hoedim kibel olav elav zuz. The shtar was not a mezuyaf. It was written and signed properly in front of witnesses, and in front of witnesses he had accepted upon himself to pay 1,000 zuz. Aval hu he'emin bi shelo et be'ernu ela mona. But he put his faith into me that I wouldn't claim from him any more than 100. So as far as the ability to collect, she has the ability to collect with this legitimate document. But that's as far as, if you're asking the question through what is she coming to make the collection, is through this document. And if that be the case, so the ruling of the Tanaic source that we saw is she's nifrash shelo b'shvuah. We continue. This is a quote from the Mishnah. We saw a list of cases of people that are able to swear. They have to swear, and the case was Eid Echod Meida Shi Prua. A singular witness testifies that the ksuba has been paid up, and we are then impose a shvu on her that she'll have to swear to back up her claim that she didn't receive any payment, and then she collects it. She's nishbas v'noteles. We're emphasizing this point that it's an oath that results in her collection, just to sort of remind you of what we saw at the top of the Omed. Here you have a piece of Gemara that is basically the same structure as the Gemara we saw at the top. The same names, you see triangles, and we already introduced them before. These are where Rami Bar Chama introduces his Havamina, that the case of Eid Echad that is testifying a type of a testimony that counters what she is saying, and that she's countering the Eid Echad, that according to Rami Bar Chama results in a shvua doraisa. Rava will express his objection, like he did before, with 2 points, and then the second line from the bottom, Rava presents his point of view. So in the Gemara, Sova Rami Bar Chama Lameimar Shvua Doraisa. Rami Bar Chama thought that this is a Torah level shvua. Dichtiv. When you're dealing with Eid Echad, the Torah says as follows: Lo Yokum Eid Echad B'ish L'chol Ovoin U'L'chol Chatos. A singular witness shall not arise to impose Ovoin U'Chatos. We're not going to translate it literally, but we'll say to impose punishments. L'chol Ovoin U'L'chol Chatos Hu Deino Kom. The singular witness, when he testifies, his testimony cannot result in our administering any punishments. Avol komhu l'shvua. The testimony of a singular witness can generate an oath. V'yomar bar, and it has been taught, kol mokum shashnayim mechayven oisei momon. In any situation that 2 witnesses would obligate someone to pay, echad mechayvo shvua. Under those same circumstances, if there's only 1 witness testifying, then the litigant would have to swear. So from this you see we're dealing with a pasuk that tells us the laws of Eid Echad. So after all is said and done, Eid Echad, the testimony of a singular witness, will generate the need for the litigant, for the opposing party, to swear. So that means you have a shvua doraisa. It's all based on a pasuk in the Torah. Two objections. Number 1, when it comes to Torah level shvuas, the result of it is exemption from payment. In this case, the woman whose claim is basically challenged by the Eid Echad is a woman that's going to swear and collect. That already is a reflection of a non-Torah type shvua. And the second objection is ein ishboyin al kfira shibud karkos, as we elaborated on this point earlier, that you're dealing with a shvua that is concerning something that's land based. It's a debt that upon which there is a lien on property, on landed property, on real estate, and real estate is from the Torah standpoint is resistant to being a generator of oaths. Hello, Marava midrabanan. The woman is going to swear in order to collect, and we'll say she can't collect without taking that oath. It's rabbinic, kedei lahafis daita shabal, so as to put the husband's mind at ease. He's claiming that she received full payment. I don't owe you anything anymore. And now we're gonna. She comes with her star, and she's claiming payment. It's a very. You can imagine the feeling that the husband has. That from his standpoint, he's going to have to be paying out money that he doesn't have to pay. So in order to quiet his mind, we make her swear thusly as well. As we continue in the Gemara, we have a nosei mivneh heading. A new geometric form appears, a trapezoid or volcano shape. We'll see that it appears as the Gemara unfolds in a flip-flop, in a reversed direction. This is because we have a ma'akav, an attempt to keep track of a back and forth type discussion. So with the narrow part facing upwards, these are nisyonos, attempts, lahavi isha haba ligvois kesubos lidei shvua doraisa, to create a Torah level shvua out of this situation. In other words, we've described a woman who's trying to collect her ksuba. Up till now, we pointed out that you're dealing with a shvua d'Rabbanan, courtesy of Rava, of course, that it's a shvua litoil, that therefore it can't be a shvua d'Oraisa. Can we impose somehow, it requires some innovation, or inventiveness, can we impose a shvua d'Oraisa on the woman? When you see the inverted volcano shape, realize that that's a rejection of whatever the previous suggestion had been. Omar Rav Papa. So we continue now at the top of Pei Ches Omen Aleph. I Pikeahu. So Rav Papa says, if the husband who's going to have to pay, if he is smart, or if he's sharp, Maisi Law Lidei Shvur Daraisa, he can bring her to making a Torah level oath. And a Torah level oath is a very, very serious matter. It's something that many people would sooner pay. They'd even pay money they don't have to pay rather than taking an oath. So one should realize how weighty a matter this is to impose a shvur d'oraisa on somebody. So on the top, Rashi adds some more information. Lidei shvur d'oraisa, Rashi says shehi b'shem. You're using the name of the Almighty, or b'kinui, or a quasi name. V'oiches sefer b'yodo, and you would hold a Torah scroll when making this oath. Can read b'shvus, as it's pointed out in the tractate Shvus. V'chamura hi ma'od. It's very, very weighty. Avol shvur d'Rabbanan klola be'alma ka'in shalanu. A shvur d'Rabbanan is basically, we state that a person will be cursed if he is not telling the truth. So, and that's similar to what Rashi says. What we do, we don't. In other words, we don't practice imposing Torah level shvuos anymore. But shvur d'Rabbanan, or a klola, we'll call it a type of sanctioning, is made. So the Baal, if he's smart, can bring her to a shvur d'oraisa, as we just saw described by Rashi. How do we do that? Yohiv law ksubosa ba'api chad sada. Let him pay the ksuba, as far from his vantage point, a second time in front of one witness. Don't forget, we're dealing with a case where there had been one witness on the Baal's side, favoring the Baal's claim that he had paid up. So now the suggestion is make a second payment in front of one witness, v'somech sada kamo asada basra, and then bring the two witnesses together, the one that testified originally that the Baal had paid up the ksuba, and now this one, umokim luhu lehanoch kamoi b'milveh, and with the second witness seeing the payment of the ksuba, so the first amount would be a loan. It would be money that would be viewed as a loan that he extended to the woman. Let's take a look at Rashi together. On the fourth line from the top, v'somech sada kama asada im, or asada basra, Yavi Shneim Yachad LeBeisin, then let the husband bring these two witnesses to court. Shim Tichpar, if she denies receiving any money, Yaidua Shneim Sheniskablu Ksubos, and that she have two witnesses that testify that her ksuba was paid. Umoiki Lahanoch Kamoi Balva, Yidbe'ena Piron Harishon, and then the husband would then claim that the original money that you had received was a loan that I extended to you. V'yoma milvehein, and say it's a loan etzlech by you. Sharei is kabal ksubasech shenis, as far as your ksuba payment that you received already. Ukshetichba v'toymar lo kibalti ela apam azos, if she then denies and says this is the first time I'm receiving any payment. V'eid echad meid ala rishona, and the first witness would be saying, well, but you received a loan that you owe. So she's countering that. So what is she saying? I don't owe the money. Oh, that's a shvua that would result in exemption from paying. Iko shvua d'oraisa. That's nishbas v'lo mishalemes. That's a shvua that's on a Torah level, a shvua of exemption nature. A exemption from paying. V'ein kan shibud karkos shalom mikoch ksuba tova, and that also is not a shvua that's karka based, that's land based, because the claim of the first money being a loan is not a claim made based on a document. She's not making a claim based on her holding a ksuba. So it's a denial of owing money that's not ksuba based, and it's an attempt to swear and become exempt. So there you've got a shvua d'oraisa. The Gemara continues, Maskif law Rav Shisha Breder Rav Idi. He objects to this suggestion, the effectiveness of this suggestion. Hech somech sado kamo asado basra. The idea of having the first witness become attached to the second witness, how does that happen? Rashi says, Hechi somech ma shiro zeh lo ro zeh. That which the first witness saw that which the second witness is seeing is not that which the first witness saw. If the woman denies ever receiving money at the beginning and ever receiving now, even though one witness does see her receiving the money now, but if she denies it, ein kan elo eid echad. Her denial is a denial that's running in the face of only one witness. Because what each one saw, if he tries to pull off the scheme that we said at the top, but what each one saw is not what the other one saw. So you don't have two witnesses that saw the same thing. V'tishava, v'titol, shlishis. She'll be able to swear and claim a third, and he'll have to pay a third time. And he's going to be really losing out if he were to try to do that. So, Elo Omar Rav Shisha Breder Rav Idi, Rav Shisha, who asked on the suggestion that Rav Papa had made, now offers his own suggestion for how you can bring about a situation of a shvua d'oraisa. He says, Yohiv lo ksubasa, he should pay the ksuba again, be'api sada kama v'sada basar. Here you have two witnesses that will see the actual ksuba payment. Umokim lo lahanoch kamoy b'hava, and the husband will then say, that first amount of money that I had paid you, that was a loan that I paid you. And if she denies that, then she'll have to swear an oath of exemption, and that is doraisa. You notice that with regard to Rav Shisha, the difference between him and Rav Papa is that with regard to that second payment that he's going to make that in front of two witnesses, and that she won't be able to deny. Maskif law Rav Ashi, Akati Yecholu L'meimar Shtei Kesubos Avoy. She still can claim that first amount was a ksuba, that wasn't a loan. Rashi, a few lines down from it, says, Yochel Omar Shtei Kesubos Hoyu, Shtei Shtoros Hoyu Li Alecha. I had two ksubos that entitle me to collect from you twice. B'pirona Rishon Ichzarti Loch Achas. With regard to the first payment, so with that first payment, I returned to you one of the ksubas. Ubeshnia Acheres. And the second ksuba is a second ksuba collection. Varei ha'ed ha'rishon me'id l'sayah shira shnei ha'pir oinos l'shem ksuba v'lo l'shem milveh. And the first witness who says there was payment, so he's supporting her point that it was a payment of the first ksuba. So you don't have the Baal having a chance to say that I extended to you a loan, and that would bring her to the point that she would have to swear to deny that, swear that I never received the loan. And since she can claim that the first payment wasn't a payment to me of a loan, but rather it was a payment to me of a ksuba, so then we don't have a shvua doraisa anymore. We continue in the Gemara. Elo Omar Rav Ashi, Hu demoda lahu. We look in the Rashi. Demoda lahu. The husband tells the witnesses. Demoda lahu lasada kama ubasra lifnei pirona sheni. The husband informs the original witness and the second witness before the husband makes a second payment to the wife. De'u shekvar parati lo ksubasa b'fnei echad mikem. You should know I paid off the ksuba already in front of one of you. V'hi kaiferes, and she is denying having received. V'ani rotze lepora shenis l'shem ksuba. I want to pay her again a second time, and with the claim that this is a ksuba payment. Shiuli shnei edim b'davar, and that will enable me to have two witnesses that I paid her ksuba. Ve'etba eser rishonim, and then I'll put a claim in for the first monies. V'yesh li aleim eid echad, and I have one witness regarding the first payment that I paid it. V'tischayev shvua doraisa, and her oath would be a shvua that I don't owe you anything. That's a shvua doraisa. V'kevon dodinu v'lo messiah law hai eid kama. And since he informed them ahead of time that now I'm paying off the ksuba, so that first witness is not going to support her claim that the payment was for a ksuba, because the husband is making it very clear that right now I'm paying off her ksuba. So su lo motzis lameimar, she won't be able to say any longer shtei ksubas havu, that there were two ksubas. For her to make a claim like that would be basically unacceptable. The milsa de lo shchichu. It's a very uncommon situation that a man would write two ksubas. So since, according to Rav Ashi, the first witness, being that he's made party, joins up with a second witness to see the ksuba paid again, he will not be able to be described by the woman of, yeah, sure, you saw a payment made to me, but that was because I had an original ksuba, a first ksuba, one of two ksubas. So that she won't be able to say anymore, and all that she'll have to say is counter the first witness's claim that she had received money as a loan, and she'd have to deny that. And in order to deny in the face of a singular witness, you would a shvua of denial, meaning a shvua which would result in exemption. That is a shvua doraisa.